Hello and welcome to another educative episode of the Cable Plus Property Show, brought to you by Cable Plus Property, your #1 online educative platform on all issues related to land and landed properties. My name is Oiza, and as you already know, this is where you get first-hand information on everything related to building construction, documentation, registration, and obtaining your planning permits. Enforcement of planning laws and regulations is what homeowners and developers often detest. In fact, they frown at when they have the sign X marked with red paint in front of their property. So that is why the guest in the studio today, Town Planner Dr. Olaseni, will be educating us on how these rules and regulations are enforced. Come with me. So I would like you to take our viewer through the process, the steps that a developer or a homeowner that gets these enforcement notices, what they ought to do as a form of response or as a form of obeying the notice. What are the step-by-step procedures to go through?
Thank you very much for that question. As a developer, if you are served any notice, the first thing that you need to do is to find out where the notice is coming from. Once you know where the notice is coming from, you visit that office. Ask for the official, the government official that have served that notice.
Okay.
You engage the office that have served that notice. Once you engage the office that have served that notice, they will be able to clear issues. If they are in need of some documents, they will tell you the documents that they require. If they are not sure whether you have a particular document, they will tell you. So the essence is for us to be on the same page. Oh, you are building. Oh, what documents do you have? Okay, please see us in the office. So the notice is saying that we are not clear, we are in doubt as to the authenticity, as to the legality of what you are doing. Please see us in the office to clarify. So as a developer, once you get the notice, you just go to the office and see them. And where you go to the office and they are asking for this document, that document, that document, the government official cannot provide those documents. It is now left for you to look around for the professionals, not quacks. Look for the professionals that could help you put together those documents. Then you are free. Then you can move on.
I want to believe some developers are not aware of this, or they intentionally choose to disobey, and that is why they go ahead to either take away the notice paper or just continue construction on the building, on the development, without caring if a notice has been served.
Yeah, some developers are ignorant of what they are supposed to do, and that is why the planning agencies are doing a very good job by serving notices. That notice will wake up the developer or the builder that you have not done what you need to do. Go and do the right thing. Again, there are some developers that are knowledgeable. They are not ignorant, but they just don't want to obey the law. Again, there are some developers, they know what to do, but perhaps they are in a hurry. Because it takes a while before you can get a planning permit, maybe a month, 2 months. That is, if your documents are in shape. All the documents must be in shape before you can get the approval. I know that government is saying, okay, within 1 month, you get your planning permits.
Exactly. Oh, now the promote within 10 days now.
Within 10 days now.
Yes.
That is if the documents are in place. Okay. But some people are in a hurry because the moneyless will say, you have to build fast. Because when an homeowner is telling you that I haven't purchased this property, or you have to build quickly, I mean, you should know that there are some issues on the land, and you shouldn't even touch it with a long pole. But some people are in a hurry to develop. So as soon as they buy the land, they start developing, even though they know that it's supposed to get planning permit. They won't do that. And there are some people, they say, okay, it's so expensive to obtain planning permit. So expensive to obtain planning permit. The money I will spend to obtain planning permit, at least it will
buy 300 blocks.
It will take the property to DPC level or to window level or to lintel level or wherever. But then it's important to do the right thing so that you avoid any embarrassment in future.
Okay. So what is the position of the law in a situation where an illegal structure is removed by the government and the owner insists or refuses to remove it after being duly served a notice?
If a developer is served a notice that the property should be demolished,
yeah,
and is given a notice, and the notice will indicate timeline, and it will be there that if he refuses to remove the property, the government will do that, but government will charge him. There will be a bill that he will have to pay. So if he decides to remove the property by himself, I congratulate him. But if he decides to wait for government to remove it, he has to pay. That's what the law says. Even if he approaches the court for kind of adjudication, I mean, the courts will rely on what the regulation, what the law says, and the regulation, that the LAPSCA regulation of 2019 is very, the law is very clear. The provisions are there that if you refuse to put it down and government comes around to put it down for you, you have to pay for the cost of that demolition. So, and there's nothing the developer can do because that is the law.
I'm glad you mentioned earlier, sir, about people who think they know people, you know, who mention names when they are served notices. And this has been a major obstruction to the free function of government enforcement agencies. So, sir, as a consultant planner, what do you think the government can do to tackle this problem so as to give monitoring officers free hands to operate?
That's a tough one, because we are dealing with people. The most difficult creation to deal with is human beings. Very difficult. Now, you say planning is people, people is planning. Planning is politics, politics is planning. So, in the administration of planning, you cannot rule away politics. Even the political leaders are being careful. Where somebody knows the governor and is dropping the name of the governor, and invariably you find out that that is the truth, the enforcement officer will have to be careful because he doesn't want to toy with his work. But that is just one in a million scenario. So the issue actually is that when somebody drops a name, follow it up, that he does the right thing. You know the governor. Me too, I know the governor. I know my governor. So,
but he has more access to the governor than maybe the monitoring officer does.
Yes, that is the problem. That is the area that the enforcement officer will have to balance it. He must balance it in the sense that he must do the work professionally, that everybody will know that he is doing this work professionally, so that nobody will read any minute that, oh, he wants to collect money, he wants to collect bribe. The issues are very clear. Where are the documents? You said you know the governor. Fine, but we need the documents. We need the documents. So the enforcement officer has to tread carefully, but that doesn't mean that they should abdicate their responsibility.
How can the government themselves help in this situation? Because if the government is meant to empower monitoring officers to carry out their duties, and at the same time is standing as an obstruction, or someone is using the government as a means of getting away with the offenses they have committed, what is the duty of the government in this case? How can they help?
You are government, I am government. You know, in local administration, we have CDAs, that is Community Development Association. We have CDCs, Community Development Committees. Now, these associations, these committees are expected to be whistleblowers.
Okay.
They are expected to know what is happening in their communities, and they must defend their communities. They must be they must be able to assist enforcement officers where they are running into problems on site. They must be the one to blow whistle that the development or the construction is going on. We're not sure whether this development has the necessary permit. They are supposed to blow whistle so that government will be aware of what is happening. You know, if individual CDAs come together, okay, in aggregates, and they're able to blow whistle, what is happening in Lagos will be a thing of the past. You can't leave it for enforcement officers. The enforcement officers, they are very few compared to the space that they are supposed to operate. So it is important. One of the ways by which government can assist is to talk to the CDAs. Let there be a kind of town hall meeting. Even LASPA can organize town hall meetings, and I know that the present general manager has been moving around organizing town hall meetings. So you organize town hall meetings, let the CDAs, CDCs, let them know what is expected of them beyond having monthly meeting and collecting monthly dues. Beyond that, they are supposed to organize themselves to a whistleblowing group and let government be aware of what is happening in their community from time to time. That will assist the enforcement officers. And the enforcement officers as well, they must be seen to be above board. They must be seen to be doing what government has asked them to do. No under the table arrangement, no behind the scene discussion. Things must be done transparently, and so when the issues are down, nobody will be the enforcement officers will not be penalized. Because the way it is that when there are issues, it's the enforcement officers that go down the line, and it shouldn't be so.
They should carry out their duties with nothing to fear.
Yeah, once you are transparent, nothing to fear, you do it the way it's supposed to be done, and everybody will be happy. Everybody will experience peace.
Thank you for that, sir. According to the law, what are the responsibilities and the power of the government on any collapsed site?
Okay, that's a very good question. When you look at what is happening in Lagos, not even only in Lagos, in Abuja and some other states of the Federation, even outside this country. Now, you see, the law is very clear, and the provisions of the law, the position of the law is very clear as to what happens to collapsed buildings. The law states that any building that collapses, that property reverts to the state government. So if one is fortunate enough not to obtain a permit, not to follow the necessary prescribed procedures, and the building eventually collapses, that is the end of his ownership of that property. And beyond that, such a developer or the owner is liable to be prosecuted. So he will forfeit that property, and he will have a case to answer. If you have been following collapse building issues in Lagos, you will find out that all those properties where building collapsed, government takes over. Is in the law, and the developers are liable to be prosecuted.
Wow. Sir, our viewers would like to know what are the following terms: general contractor all risk insurance policy, and building insurance certificate in respect to building under construction and existing development.
Okay, I have mentioned that under demand notice.
Okay.
Any building that is above 2 stories, you need to have general all risks insurance. For what purpose? any accident can happen. Accident can happen on site at any time. So if you don't have insurance, how do you take care of a workman that fell down from the top floor? Okay. It is that insurance that will take care of that. And you need to have a certificate to actually show that indeed you have obtained that insurance. And apart from that, it gives the workmen a kind of peace of mind that, oh, if anything happens to me, either an accident or fatality, you know that there is a kind of indemnity. So this is to indemnify the developer or the owner of the property in case of any accident that happens.
Is building collapse one of those accidents?
Building collapse is part of those accidents. That is on the part of the workmen.
Okay.
Talking about workmen compensation now. Workmen compensation. So that the liability is not wholly and totally on the developer. Once you take insurance, you say that if in case of any accident or incident, the insurance will assist me, will relieve me of some of the liabilities that I'm supposed to actually carry. So, and again, where you have states, there's what we call state certification. Once a property had reached maybe DPC level, okay, German floor, what we call German floor, you have a state certification. Once you get to a particular stage of the construction, you have a state certification. So that we are sure that at every stage, you have followed the procedure and you have followed the guidelines.
Wow. Is the Lagos State Building Control Agency, LABSCA, empowered to seal off and demolish properties?
Thank you very much for that question. The Lagos State Building Control Agency, by the Act of 2019, is empowered to seal up, is empowered to demolish.
Wow.
Properties. Is is in the provisions of the law that they can seal up, okay, and they can demolish properties. They will give notice. Okay, they will give notice. Last part is into issuance of permit, that based on the documentation, all the things that you have put together, we are convinced that you can commence, you can carry out this activity. It could be residential, it could be industrial, it could be commercial. You can carry out this activity on the ground. But LABSCA has to do with the implementation, the physical construction of the property on the land. So it's LABSCA that monitors the stage by stage development, okay, physical development now on the site. And in the process, if anybody is doing anything that is at variance to what is in the permit, they stop you.
But according to what you said earlier, they can only do that when the developer is proven guilty.
Yeah, if it is deemed that the developer has run foul of the provisions of the law.
Okay.
And what are we talking about? Do you have a planning permit? No, I don't have. You have run foul of the provisions of the law. So where a developer runs foul of the provisions of the law, there are penalties and there are punishments based on what we have in the law for the developer.
Okay. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back on the show.
Cable Plus Property, the hub of professionals in the built environment and the #1 online educative platform on all issues related to land and landed property. At Cable Plus Property, our aim is to ensure that all Nigerians and non-Nigerians have at the tip of your fingers, free of charge, all information on landed matters. We provide you with all information you need to know about land procurement, land documentation and development, planning permit procurement, building construction, and so on. Join us today for free by subscribing to our YouTube channel, like and follow us on our social media platforms, and check us on our website www.cableplusproperty.com. Together, we shall make our environment better. Spend and build right.
Welcome back. This is still the Cable Plus Property Show, and I have with me in the studio today Town Planner Dr. Olaseni Mobolaji Abubakar. Under what conditions should, I know you've mentioned this before, but I just like this to be more elaborate. Under what conditions can or should a sealed off building be unsealed?
Thank you for that. A very good question. That a property is sealed doesn't mean that it will remain sealed forever. And that the property is sealed doesn't mean that from being sealed it's going to be demolished. There are certain conditions that has to be met before the property is unsealed. For example, it may be that, okay, this property doesn't have insurance, all risk general insurance. And you say, okay, that is a very important document. So until you have that, you cannot continue the construction. So you can seal that property. So once the developer is able to provide the general all risk insurance certificate, what happens? You unseal it. And again, if you discover that the materials of construction that you met on site during inspection is below standard, is substandard, you may, because of that, because you are talking about the integrity of the property now, because of that, okay, we are sealing this property until you cut away these substandard materials and you bring in standard materials which will not affect the integrity of the property. Again, if the property has no papers, no permit, you can seal until, and you give them kind of a period, a timeline. Once they now have the permit, they present the permit and every other thing that you want them to present. Once it's presented, what else do you want? You unseal it so that they can continue.
I used to have the notion that any property that carries the X mark or the sealed mark is to be demolished.
No, it's a misconception. With the X mark, it's saying that you have contravened, stop work. Let's resolve issues. Once you come for a meeting and the issues are resolved, then they remove the X mark and you continue your construction. It's not a sign that the building is going to be demolished, and it's not a sign that the building will be sealed and remain sealed forever. It's just to call their attention. You know, some people, they are very difficult. If you don't call their attention privately, or you call their attention publicly, they will not respond. So that X mark is calling their attention publicly, so that their neighbors will say, ah, Mr. So, they put an X mark on your building. You know, we better go and do something about it. So it's a public kind of, it's calling them out, like you say in the social media.
Yeah.
You drag them, you call them out. It's like calling them out. And with that, they start running all over the place. And once they're able to make amends and they're able to regularize whatever issues, then they will be given a clean bill of health to resume construction, and they continue.
It's really unfortunate that developers have to, or we have to let it get to that extent where we are called out before we do the right thing. It's really unfortunate.
You know, some people in this country, if it's possible not to pay for transport, they will enter transport free of charge. If it's possible to go to my 12 market, sorry that I use my 12 market, and you go and carry all the foods that you need without paying, people will do it. But it's not like that. There are certain things that has to be done for certain things to materialize.
Thank you, sir. What are your thoughts on incessant building collapse, especially the causes of this building collapse that we've been recording so far?
Thank you very much for that question. Building collapse, there are so many factors that could be responsible. But before I mention those factors that I'm familiar with, I want to mention that there are two scenarios that one has to consider. Prior to year 2008, the building collapses that we experienced has to do with the old structures, old buildings. And that has to do with longevity. They've been around for quite a while. Structures that are over 75 years, 100 years. Those are the ones that were prevalent prior to year 2008. And that actually made the government, that was the regime of Babatunde Raji Fashola, to constitute urban town planning reform. We call it urban planning reform of 2008. Lagos State urban planning policy reforms of 2008 to look into the causes of incessant building collapse in Lagos State. I happen to be the secretary of the editorial board of that committee then, and it was that committee, 2008, that recommended the unbundling of Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development into having 3 agencies. One was in existence, but it was remodified. The first one is LASPA. LASPA was one of the agencies emanating from the policy reforms of year 2008. The other one is LAPSCA. And the third one is LASURA, Guaranteed Limited. Now, the essence of LASPA is to generate and is to provide a permit for developers. And LAPSCA is to look into the area of building control. Because it was discovered that if you don't have adequate or the standardized materials, it could have implication on the integrity of the property. So, having said that, beyond 2008, we had some kind of a guide, building control, building, I think, what do we call it now? It's a kind of a guide, right? It's like a kind of a pressure group working to foster opportunities that will guide against building collapse. And beyond that, we felt that, oh, it is Uhuru. Building collapse will be a thing of the past. But it's shocking to note that there has been reoccurrence of building collapse over the years. And what came to mind is that, aside from, rather than us experiencing buildings that were old collapsing, it is new structures under construction that are collapsing. So it's a flip side of the coin. The other side is all buildings collapsing prior to year 2008.
Which is quite understandable.
Which one can easily excuse. But what is inexcusable is new properties under construction collapsing. And it doesn't matter which agency is handling building control or where that agency is residing. The fact is that buildings will still continue to collapse. Building collapse is not the omission or commission of planners. Then we need to look beyond that, because LASPA, what it does essentially is to grant permit to a developer who had demonstrated that he wants to put up a structure, brought all the documents together, and they are satisfied, okay, and is given a clean bill of health that he can go ahead and build. But the agency that monitors, that guides, that supervises, and that gives a nod for construction is LAPSCA. So when you want to strike the grant for a foundation, you bring in LAPSCA, they give you a certificate. Once you get to German floor, DPC level, you bring them in, and they give you a certificate that you have done it very well. And when you are casting beam, casting columns, casting floors, you bring them in for them to look at the materials to be sure that the materials are standard. So, coming back to the question, the factors responsible for building collapse is not planning, is not planners. The factors are either materials of construction, processes of construction, and the expertise that has come into the supervision of construction, where you have quacks as supervisors. You are going to get what you're getting now. So, three major factors: the materials of construction, the supervision of construction, and the sincerity of the agency responsible to monitor physical construction on site. Those are the factors that I can lay my hands on now as very, very germane as causal factors of building collapse.
The final question, sir. As a consultant planner that has been involved in the review of master plans, how do you think the general public, or the people, so to say, can be involved in this plan so they feel a sense of belonging, like the government is planning with them and not just for them?
Oh, the plans are for the people, but the process should be with the people. And from my own little experience, whenever you want to start a planning project, the first set of people that should be involved is the people. So you have what we call stakeholders forum. You provide a kind of a notice to the CDAs, CDCs within the jurisdiction of where the plan is expected to cover. So you have a stakeholders forum telling them the intention of government. Oh, government wants to prepare a master plan or a model city plan for this community. We want your cooperation. We want to have an idea of what you think it should be. And they will come. Yeah. So you have these layers of having people involved. The first layer of the stakeholders forum is when you're about to start, you let them know the intention of government. The second layer is when you want to go to the field to collect data. You involve them, you involve their children, you involve their wards that are learned, that are educated to be part of the data collectors. By the time you come out with the findings, you display, you let them know that this is the findings that we have come up with during the investigation, during the moving around, during the survey. And you now ask them, where do we go from here? They are the one that will tell you what they think should be in the plan, because they are the one living there. They are the one that knows the history of the place, and they know what they want. So in that stakeholders forum, they will tell you that these are the things that we think should be considered in the plan. And like I've said, plans are supposed to dovetail into projects. So they will tell you that these are the projects that we want in this community. So once you're able to harness all those observations and you are able to resolve those observations, it makes that plan to be their plan. So it won't be that, oh, government has prepared a plan for us. It will be that we have prepared a plan which government has made the enabling environment available.
Is it usually like this, or is this process usually followed for development of plans by the government?
Well, from my own experience, for the plans that I've been involved in, the master plans and the model city plans that I've been involved in, that has been the procedure. We've had 4 layers of stakeholders fora. First one when we were about to start, the second one when we were about to go to the field, third one when we return from the field, and the fourth one when we are about to do the proposal. And it has been very helpful because it has made the plan very inclusive.
Yeah.
Everybody takes ownership of what they have in the plan because there was never a time they were in the dark. They have been part and parcel of the journey. the same thing that we are doing in Badagry now. Before we started, we had kind of stakeholders forum in all the local government areas, Badagry and all the others, and we interacted with all the KBCs, and we had a major stakeholders forum in Lasu, where all the KBCs, all the chiefs, all the kings, and all the people that matter, the investors, they came, and we had an interaction together, and it was a harvest of opinion, harvest of thinking, harvest of what they plan to address, and that is it makes it better for the professional. It makes it better because nobody will query, because it is what you have in the plan is what they said they want to have in the plan. All you need to do is also use your expertise to arrange things and to put in the necessary standards to make it to follow best practices.
We need to learn to begin to do the right things, and that is why we have brought you here. So I thank you so much for your time. And lastly, I would like you to talk about the KB Plus property endeavor. I don't know if you have watched our past episodes before. If you have any piece of advice for us at the KB Plus property show.
Thank you very much for that pertinent question. When I first of all got notice of Cable Plus properties, my mind was on the people that, oh, these guys have come again. These people selling lands, either genuine or ungenuine lands. These guys that I didn't take it serious. I didn't know that Cable Plus property is actually venturing into a very important corridor. What Cable Plus property is doing is very, very novel, very germane, and I have watched some of your past episodes. Very profound, and I was saying behind the camera that I have a confession. I will still make that confession behind the camera.
Okay.
Not on the camera.
Okay.
But I want to say that you are doing a great job here.
Thank you, sir.
And I want to say that what is actually missing, the missing link between planning and the public, is what Cable Plus property is introducing. You are trying to supply the missing link. And what is the missing link? There are so many people in this country, educated but ignorant of planning. There are so many uneducated people that are ignorant. There are so many educated people that are ignorant of planning. So when you ask them what is planning, those are the people that you put X mark. And it's because they need money. But planning is more than that. As a matter of fact, the X mark, the divine control aspect is like downstream. It's like downstream aspect of planning. Planning actually has to do with preparing development plans, master plans, regional plans, local area plans, action plans. There are numerous plans that planners are involved in. Development control is just 1% of what planners are expected to do, of what planning is supposed to do. It's only that the development control bit is the one that interfaces with the society, with the people. That is the one that the people engages with. But others is to provide the background, to provide the foundation for development control. As a matter of fact, it's not development control, it's development, it's to guide the developers. And I think it is high time the developers see planning as a development guide. That these are agencies that guide development, not control. When you use the word control, I mean, you are bringing police action or military action into it. It's development guide. I don't know. I've come to you. Okay, this is what to do. This is what to do. This is what, if you do it this way, you are going to get this result. And everybody will be happy. As against development control. So, Cable Plus property, doing a great job. And I want you to really see it as a great job. Is a mandate. It's a calling. It's a calling. And I pray that God Almighty will help you to break more frontiers, because there are a lot of people there that are ignorant of planning, and what you are doing is what we need. There are one or two outfits that have tried to do what you are doing, but what they were talking about, their own focus was housing. Was housing. The likes of, I think, Imolein, architect Imolein, the likes of town planner Dr. Ogunleye. Okay, they have a TV program many years ago, doing fantastically, but this one is actually talking about planning, and this is what we need. If there is any time we need this kind of show, enlightenment, it cannot be more appropriate than now. And we are doing a great job.
Thank you, sir.
And we continue to support you in our own little way. And I want to thank you for inviting me to be part of this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It was an exciting session with you. Thank you for providing adequate and explanatory answers to all of our questions. We hope you'd heed our call when next to call.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
In pursuit of a better and sustainable built environment, we all have to obey the laws and follow rules and regulations. I'm sure you're nodding your head in agreement with me that Cable Plus Property has come to change the narrative. That was an exciting, interesting and educative section with town planner Dr. Olaseni Mobolaji Abubakar. He's a former Deputy Rector Academics, Yaba College of Technology, as well as the consultant planner in the review of the Badagry Master Plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, share with family, friends, and colleagues, and also head on to our social media pages on Instagram and Facebook at Cable Plus Property. My name is Oiza, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.